Something every vacant landowner should be aware of is the liability and potential nuisance of a trespasser on their property. Hi, I'm Seth Williams, the founder of retipster.com and a land investor. And in my experience of owning hundreds of vacant lots all over the country, this has never been a serious problem for me, but every property is different, especially if you have vacant land with any kind of traffic regularly going through, whether it be hunters or fishers or trappers, or even people going by on mountain bikes and ATVs. This is something you should probably think about. If you have any concern about people wandering onto your property, either intentionally or accidentally, and causing damage or stealing stuff or hurting themselves, something you can do to protect yourself is posting a no trespassing sign on your property. So what is trespassing exactly? In broad terms, trespassing is when someone enters or stays on your property without your consent, but each state has its own specification. In fact, each state has a lot of variations in how they define trespassing and what the penalties are for it, so take some time and get educated about how the statutes work in your state. And if you're curious about this, we actually have a blog post over at retipster.com that outlines a lot of the basics about all 50 states. I'm gonna have a link to that blog post beneath this video if you wanna check it out. So why post no trespassing signs in the first place? Well, there's at least a couple reasons to do this. First of all, it's for liability purposes. If somebody wanders onto their property, hurts themselves, and tries to sue you for it, this isn't the same thing as having an insurance policy or an LLC to protect your personal assets. But if somebody did try to sue you and bring you to court, it would be helpful to have some kind of evidence that you had no trespassing signs posted at all the appropriate places in accordance with your state. This kind of thing is not guaranteed to get you off the hook in some kind of a lawsuit situation, but it's more helpful to have it there than not. And another reason to do this is because it could give you legal recourse in some cases if somebody trespasses onto your property, does damage, or steals something. And in some states, a trespasser can claim ignorance that they were on private property when they took something or did damage. But if you have signs in there, it takes away that defense and makes it very clear you were on private property when you did this. And these signs are a way to make sure you have the highest possible recourse against a trespasser if they do damage or steal something. For example, if somebody trespasses onto your property and steals something, without any signs, they could just be charged with theft. But if you do have signs clearly marked on the property, they could be charged with theft, trespassing, and burglary. So having those signs on there is just an additional deterrent for anybody who is thinking about going onto your property and causing problems. And also keep in mind, this is something that does vary from state to state. In some states, signs don't really matter at all. If you're trespassing on somebody's property, you're trespassing. But in other states, having those signs up there does play a big role in giving you this kind of recourse against somebody. So what works as a trespassing sign if you want to put these up around your property? There is no standard measurement or size or wording that applies to all 50 states, but you will find a lot of commonalities pretty much everywhere. In most cases, if you pick up a package of these signs at your local store, the wording and the dimensions of the sign is probably going to be accurate for the place where you're at. And even if you buy these on Amazon or some other online store, it's probably going to work in your area because it's just a smart business move for the sign company to make something that is sellable in every state in the country. It's worth being aware there are some minimum size standards and wording standards in all 50 states. So whatever kind of sign you get, just make sure it complies with the state statutes in your area. And there's also several states that have a purple paint law where you can basically just paint a post or a tree with purple paint, whether it's spray paint or roll-on paint, and it acts as a symbol of no hunting, no fishing, and no trapping in that area. And this can be a pretty useful way to do it in the states where it's allowed, because a lot of times signs can get ripped down or stolen or taken off trees really easily if somebody just wants to remove the evidence that you posted the sign there. Whereas purple paint is a much more maintenance-free and permanent way to keep that sign up there. And in terms of protection, this kind of thing definitely won't give you any guarantees that you would be able to go after somebody or protect yourself from liability. It's not the same as an insurance policy or an LLC to shield your personal assets, but it can help, particularly on vacant lots where the boundaries are less clear and there's nobody there to keep an eye on it. And even if you're a vacant land investor who buys and sells vacant lots pretty quickly and you don't hold them for that long, is it worth going out to the property and doing this, or even hiring somebody to bring the sign out to the property or paint a tree for you? To be honest, I haven't done it a whole lot and it's never really caused any problems for me, but if I did own hunting land or land by a trail or a path with a lot of traffic that went through it, I would probably consider doing this just to protect myself from any issues. And even if I plan to sell that property pretty quickly and I only own it for a few months, in most cases I probably wouldn't make a point of doing this, but even if I did decide to do it, the nice thing is I don't have to send anybody out to take the signs down after it's sold. It's not like a for sale sign that needs to come out after the property sells, because chances are the future property owner is going to want these signs on the property too. So it really can and should be a permanent thing until somebody decides it's time to take them down. So if you decide to post some signs on your property, here's a few pro tips just to keep in mind before you decide to do this. First of all, consider ordering a survey on your property just to be 100% sure about where the boundary lines are on your property and to make sure you don't accidentally put one of these things on your neighbor's vacant lot. And also make sure that they're posted at all the natural entry points. Say if there's like a driveway or a path or a road that goes to or through your property. Those are the most obvious places to put these, but a lot of states will have rules where you need to post them every 100 feet from each other. So as a good rule of thumb, try to adhere to that 100 feet distance if you have any doubt about where you should be putting these. And it's also worth noting that some states actually have rules that you can't post these too close to each other, like a big cluster of signs, because it just creates an eyesore. So keep an eye out for that too as you're doing your own research in your state and how this works. And make sure these signs are nailed up in a permanent fashion so that the weather or a person can't easily just come and rip them off or take them down. Sometimes that does happen. And I will say there's a big difference between the types of signs you can get. Some of them are basically just like Tyvek material that you can staple into a tree. Those are not that difficult to take down, whereas others need to be nailed into a tree at 2 or 4 corners, and those could also be taken down, but they're a lot harder. Whereas the purple paint, well, you'd basically have to cut the tree down or remove the post, which is probably the hardest to do. Just different things to keep in mind, but the idea is to make sure it's set up in such a way that it's not going to get taken down very easily when you're not there. So first of all, get educated on the rules in your state, and if it turns out that these things are super beneficial, and if this is a vacant lot that you plan to buy and hold for a long time, and especially if there's hunting or trapping or biking or snowmobiling traffic or anything like that that regularly goes by your land, then I would definitely consider putting some of these up if they're not there already. So, hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching. Again, if you want to check out the blog post with a lot more state-specific information on all 50 states, I'm going to have that link beneath this video. And if you found this video helpful, please be sure to like it. It'll help other people find the video and it'll help them as well. And if you want to learn more about vacant land investing and a lot of the other issues that pertain to land ownership, be sure to subscribe to the channel because I think you'll find it really helpful. We talk about land all the time here. It's one of our favorite real estate investing strategies, and there's a lot to learn about it. So, thanks again for watching. Talk to you next time.